Right. Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Draglist Live, where we get to bench race with the world's top drag racers. My name's Bill Pratt. It's great to be with you tonight because tonight we feature 2024 PDRA Extreme Pro Stock champion Chris Powers. Chris is coming back to join us for the second time. We talked with him after his 21 championship. So looking forward to bringing Chris in. Before we go to Chris, let's bring in John for a minute. John, how are you doing?
Doing great here, BP, and howdy from Houston, everybody. Please join us on the live chat. I'll take notes and pass your questions and comments along to BP and Chris.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Appreciate you, brother. And folks, click the like and click the share button down below. It's the little thumbs up for Chris Powers. And then you can also subscribe by clicking our Draglist logo down in the bottom right. So with all that said, let's prove we got him. Chris Powers, welcome to the show.
Hi, how y'all doing? Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you on tonight. So this is our return visit. I'm going back to the archives. December 20th, 2021 was the last time you had you on. And that was right after your first championship, or at least the first 2024 PDRA Extreme Pro Stock Championship. So, man, congrats on making it happen again.
Appreciate it. All hats off to Sonny's and my crew for doing a great job and keeping us focused and getting it done.
Well, kind of walk us through the year 2024. I mean, how many races did you have? And then when did it start to look like you're always in the hunt, I guess, but when did it start to look like you might pull this off?
The first couple races, we didn't fare too well. We were doing a lot of R&D, swapping motors at races and just working on things. And then we decided to just kind of strap down there the third, fourth race, and then we just started reeling in the points later. And then we just gathered up a lot of points in a hurry and tried to get a lead and get moving. And we did. We got to Bristol and we were locked up with a tie, and then we went on to the next race and won. So it kind of moved us ahead.
That's awesome. Well, can you walk us through like a PDRA Pro Extreme car? You guys at, obviously Mountain Motors, 2450 is the pounds these days, right? Tell us sort of what the setup is compared to like a fan might be used to an NHRA Pro Stock car. Tell us what the difference.
Yeah, so 2400 minimum. We run a max 833 cubic inches for the Hemi, compared to like the 500-inch, Pro Stock car. Our cars, we can run carburetors or fuel injection. There's no really big advantage between either. The fuel injection we use is a little bit outdated for, 2024, 25. It's there's things you could do to improve that a lot, but we just don't have it in the rule book that we can do, other things with it yet. So, but the cars are pretty much identical, other than ours got the hood scoops and they went to the Ram, cowl induction hoods and things like that. We run a little bigger of a tire under the back. They run the 33, we run the 34s or 36s under our car. But other than that, they're basically pretty close to the same thing. We run a little bit more wheelie bar length on our cars than they do. But other than that, our cars just pull a lot harder. So when they leave, they just stay pulling all the way down the racetrack. They just don't lay over like a 500-inch does.
Right. It's tons of torque, I reckon.
Yeah. The fuel injection we use is a little bit outdated for, 20.
There we go. Had to do a mute there. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
But go on back back at it. Let's see. You're saying, let's see, a little bit longer wheelie bar, and I think I missed anything after that if there was something.
Yeah, just a big difference in horsepower and torque. I mean, we don't RPM them like they do. We're not up at that 10, 5 RPM range or nothing. Our car's mainly 85, 86, maybe if you're really getting greedy, 8650, 8700, but that's about it. After that, you're going to start breaking motors and having a lot of part failures.
Well, I never thought he'd be able to spin a 500-inch motor that fast, and it's, let alone an 833. That would be something.
Yep. So there's a difference there and stuff, but I enjoy the mountain motor stuff way more. I mean, we've looked at other things to go to, but I like this class. It's a good group in there. It's It's not, one guy running 12, 13 cars in the class. You
Right.
got a diversity. There's no really any teams. It's everybody's on their own, and it's a lot nicer to have it that way than it is to have one guy, floating 10, 12 cars in the class.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's so the performance of these cars are like have been like right there. You guys, number one, you all pretty much run, pretty similar. But you're now this year a 399 to say a 415, maybe depending on the track. Bristol obviously a little slower in some cases. In the quarter, like 16s if on the super track on a cold day to like 620s every day. I mean, it's those you guys seem to have been right there. I mean, what is that rules is holding back the rules? You mentioned the injection is not the latest and greatest, but is that sort of how you guys are keeping the field having some parity there, and then also just not really dropping like a couple hundredths a year? What's kind of behind that?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of at the wall. It's just we're cubic inch limited, and that's it. All the cars have we pretty much run the same as the classes run for a decade and a half. The biggest thing now is everybody's running that fast. You don't have a big spread, between even guys that don't have a lot of, parts and things like that. They've caught up, and there's just nothing left. The 399 is a huge thing. It takes a lot to go that fast. Obviously, track conditions, prep. It's got to have air. You got to have barometer. That's why it's so hard to run it. I mean, we've gone 400, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 times, but
Right.
we've never been able to just push enough to get it there. We've run the bottom 950 flat, and the car just lays over somewhere in the run, and we just don't have enough. Like it takes everything. Everything's got to be perfect. Clutch setup.
Right.
I mean, it's got to be exact. That's why only one car has done it, and nobody's even been able to do it again. They haven't even backed it up with a 399. It's
Right.
their backup was a '02 or '03. So
Right.
it takes a lot to do it. I mean, it could take a long time for somebody to do it again,
Right.
to go that fast. But unless you, open the door up to other things, it's never going to, it's not going to happen very often. It's not going to be in the heat of a day or nothing like that.
Right.
And the class is good kind of the way it is. If you start opening it up to a 5.3 bore space from a 5, 0 bore space, the problem is then you're going to get rid of the guys that are just got enough to do it now. And the
Right.
guys that got the money will just build the motors, and that'll be the end of it. The class will kind of die off. You won't have the car count.
Well, now it's all about the racing because on the drag list, we track every ET, right? And so across every year, and the average, I mean the mean. I don't mean to say the average. I mean the middle guy in the category, his best time, whoever that is, I don't know off the top of my head, is a
Yeah.
404. So you can go from like a 399 and change, and frankly, a 4 flat to a 404, and that's your spread. That's your 100 to your 50 rating, right? And after that, it falls off a bit, but that's unbelievable. Everybody's going fast, as you were noting. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big thing. It's just everybody's the same. So the tree means a lot. It's who leaves first, and a lot of the races we have won have been won by, a foot or two at the other end. It's
Right.
it's rare that we just get a gimme and the guy goes out and rattles. I mean, when we roll up, everybody throws down whatever. They throw the kitchen sink at it. That obviously they don't want to be beat.
Right.
And we probably just, that team that they definitely don't want to get beat by. So they throw everything they got at us when they roll up. And so it's who leaves first, and it tends to be who left first is who finishes first now.
Oh, got it. Well, you're going to have the bullseye on your back this coming year. That's for sure.
Yeah, we have it every year. So we're kind of used to it.
Well, it sounds great. Well, Chris, let's check in with John and see who's out there on the chat line and what they have to say. We usually get some great input from our crowd out there.
Yeah.
Kate is with us, and she says, hi, guys. And Rodney Potter, who was last week's Racer of the Week, he says, good evening, everyone. Jack Red is with us tonight. He says, hi, group. And Doug Polly's Nostalgia Pro Stock Racing, the Mid-Atlantic Nostalgia Pro Stock Association, saying hi.
Howdy, Doug.
Hey,
And
don't do.
yeah, and Rich Panicaro checked in from New Jersey. He says, "Good evening, everybody." And Kay Thurkelson says, "Good evening, everyone. Miss Kay here. Glad you got Chris on No Issues BP."
Yeah, it was all good. All I had to do was look at the door, who's knocking on the door. Does that wrap us up for a minute, Jack? John, sorry.
We are caught up for the moment.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us, and come up with some Mountain Motor Pro stock questions for Chris, and we'll ask him to fill us in. I did want to talk about, there's match race pro stock, although we really don't have much of that anymore. You guys are the show. You don't have the open match race pro stocks. I'm the Budds Creek announcer, or I have been. I used to be, I should say. And of course, we always had the Mountain Motor Nationals, which was pretty much, it wasn't crazy. It wasn't nitrous or anything, but it was run what you brung. Hope you brung enough. You don't see a lot of that anymore. Is there any difference between your cars, or are you guys kind of the only game in town for Mountain Motor Pro stocks, or are there other places that run them that may have a slightly different rules or anything like that?
No, I mean, it's pretty much PDRA and NHRA, and that's it. I know there's been some chatter about IHRA, but as of now, there's nothing there. So it's really hard to get these guys together to group up to do a match race somewhere. I know a few years ago
Right.
we tried to do it at Capitol and some places like that, but I mean, just getting four guys to be on the same page is practically impossible. Everybody's got their own view and their own thing, and
Right.
it's a tough deal for the class. We only got 28 to 30 cars max in the country. And a lot of the guys that have them are older guys that just don't come out. And if they do, it's once in a while. They're not going to run a full season or nothing like that. They'll run a couple.
Right.
And so that's made it tough to do some of them races like that. But it'd be nice to do some of it, some tracks where they can really pack them in
Right.
would be a great event to put on. But no, it's pretty much just PDRA and whatever we do with NHRA this year. I think there's possibly 8 races over there. We're just kind of waiting to see what they're going to do.
Got it. Does anybody run? I think every now and then a 1 or 2 quarter-mile times pop up over the year. Does anybody run these cars on the quarter as one of your standard programs?
NHRA does. That's all quarter mile for us. So
Okay.
depending on where we are, I would say somewhere in the 620s, unless they take you to, like when they took us to, the cars went to Denver, some guys went out there and raced. Obviously they slow down and gear ratios and everything change when you're in them barometers. And of course they fall off when you go to Bristol, at certain times of the year. But yeah, so all that over there will be quarter mile. PDRA is strictly 8th mile. I think they may try to do something there at their world finals
Mhm.
on like the Thursday when they run like their pro star type deal race. They may
Right.
run, we've discussed to try to see if we can run quarter mile there, but the problem is a lot of guys that race there, they just don't want to run quarter mile. There's a
Right.
handful, and so we've kind of just left it as the 8th mile, and we haven't tried to change any of it there.
Well, if it ain't broke, I guess what they say.
No, and the 8th mile is a tough deal. A lot of people you hear a lot of people complaining about it, but honestly, the 8th mile's so much harder because you got very little air you can have on the cars and you're
Right.
done. Quarter mile this year was definitely a lot harder quarter mile than it has been in the past. I mean, in the past, you could have, a tenth and a half between the number 1 car and the number 16 car, but NHRA is only running an 8-car field with us. So the cars are door to door. I mean, getting into the field's already, a tall order to get into the top 8 of it.
Right. Right. Well, that's some interesting. And you mentioned IHRA. I actually was going to ask about IHRA because it started out looking like they were going to run a bunch of pro classes, including Mountain Motor, but then now adjustments have been made, leadership changes have been made. I don't know if they're going to run any pro stuff, are they?
They say they're going to try to do a little. I would think more of that would probably be in 2026 until they get everything finished up. I know they have kind of merged that WDRA series, like, so that'd be
Yeah.
Budds Creek and, Michigan, 131, all them will come back. So obviously they need them tracks because they're some of the best quarter mile tracks out there. So IHRA is definitely going to have those tracks. But I think till they get all the paperwork done and finalized and everything, it'll probably be late in the year before they could even have any kind of event. I think they'd be better off, maybe doing one or something just to see how it goes. But, they could target the following year. I wouldn't try to jam 8 or 10 of them. And we don't have the cars. So it's going to take them from somewhere, and one of them's going to suffer.
Right. Yeah. And it got a little bit of a late start here now too, but
Yep.
that makes a lot of sense. John, did you have something from that you wanted to add?
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Yeah, Chris, I was just going to ask you, I don't know if you already mentioned this or not, but what's the fastest speed you ever ran in the quarter mile?
Budds Creek, we went 6:18, just shy of 2:26.
Wow.
So,
Yep.
That was our run there to go in the threes in the eighth, and it went 950, 60 foot, 950 flat, and it just gave up a little bit through the gear change, and it motored back in the back, but the car was kind of hourglassing out through their chatter, and so it just gave up the little bit we needed. But we went 400 with a 1 or a 2, so we just didn't have enough. The quarter mile speed shows that we have it, but we just didn't have enough there in the eighth to get it.
That's fantastic.
Awesome. Anything else, John, from the team or from yourself?
Well, we've had a few more comments. Rob Bialco said, hello, boss, stay warm. And Macon Jackson is with us tonight. He says, good evening, everybody.
Even.
Crafty Kate said, I feel slow in this group. I am excited to go 140. And she also had a question for Chris. She said, is Chris running a screw motor? I'd like to know what he runs.
The opposite, I guess.
Yeah, so we run anywhere between an 818 and an 827 Sonny's Hemi. So all motor, naturally aspirated. There's no power adders. It's just pure raw horsepower under the hood of the car, with a 5-speed clutch in the car. So typically we're in high gear right by the 8th mile. We're putting it in high gear, and then it's a charge to the quarter.
Right. Randy Johnston just posted, he said 1/8 mile and you don't scatter engines.
That's very true. The 8th mile is a little more conservative on the motors. That's for sure. You don't have that valve train out there floating around on the back and tearing up parts, but we've been pretty durable. We've hurt one motor since 2017.
Yeah, Rodney Potter said he agrees with you. He says it's easier on everything.
Yeah, and your pockets.
Awesome. Thank you, John. All right, I know you shared some cool stuff with me as far as how you got started, Chris. Let's go back to some of the stuff. You said your dad was racing VW bugs from 84 to 95. That kind of gave you the bug to get started?
Yeah, so he raced the bug from 84 to 95, and that was about the last year he drove the car. I got pretty much, when we were kids going along, we were the crew, me and my 2 brothers. We were the crew in the car. So, I mean, we'd be building motors and fixing trannies and everything at the racetracks. The bugs always had a weak link. It was the tranny and axle area. So, but we did that all them years. We traveled around the circuit, where Michigan, Indiana, all through the Carolinas and everything. It was a VW thing. They were really big in the 80s and early 90s. I mean, they'd put more people in the seats than what these events today could even possibly think of. So, but I started out doing that. I started racing the street cars and stuff in 95 and 6, and in the high school eliminator class, which I don't know if they even do that anymore, but that was back when they had the Sears Craftsman bracket finals, and we pretty much ate that up. It was pretty much my brothers started it, and then I was the youngest one. So for a 6-year period, we pretty much controlled the racetrack that we were the kids that went to every single bracket finals for them classes like that.
Wow. That's amazing. So, and you're kind of I say you won over 25 races between 95 and 98. Was that personally or your family as a team?
No,
Or
that's personally. I did
wow,
pretty good. I paid attention, and obviously when you got a slower car, consistency is a lot easier than it is when you're going fast. So
right,
um, I kind of just learned the game quick, and obviously with the brothers racing, it kind of rubbed off pretty fast and what I needed to do, and how to race the finish line. So um, the slower stuff was way easier to do that with than it was once I started going faster and faster. But yeah, I
right.
did pretty good. I won the first year. I think I won 12 races in '95 alone.
Wow. Well,
So
you
we did.
had had a little girl, and then took a couple years off, and then came back and messed around with some turbos. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we had a daughter at a young age, and so I stopped racing. But when I came back, we put the turbos on the bug. We built a new bug and stuff, and put turbos on it, and that went somewhere in the mid to high nines in the quarter, which is
Hmm.
pretty impressive. But
Heck yeah.
I ran that for a couple years, and I don't know, I just never got the swing of it. I was never as good as the brothers were driving the car, so I kind of peeled off and went and started racing the dragster stuff, and then obviously started winning a bunch. So that was kind of the end of the door car era there. So
Hmm.
I raced the dragsters all the way up until actually 2018. I was racing a dragster. Even
Wow.
once I got into pro stock, I still raced them. So, but that was the easiest way to win. So kind of
Yeah.
jumped into the dragster, and if they were consistent, you could do a lot of damage at racetracks with them.
Sneak right up on them, couldn't you?
Yeah, and the faster we went, and that was the biggest thing. At some of the racetracks around here, we always had the fastest dragster. I mean, back in '07 or 8, we were already going 670, 680s in a dragster with, sunny power under there. So we were
Right.
already super fast and spotting everybody.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, is that what gave you the love of the big blocks is like the 500 inchers and other things in your dragster to
Yeah, I mean, we built a 500-inch DRC1 motor in like I think it was 2004 or 5, somewhere around there. We bought an old Grumpy Jenkins motor that was tore apart. We bought and put it all back together and threw it in the car, and took a little bit to get it figured out, to get it working. And obviously, it was an RPM motor, so you don't really RPM dragster, so we just had to work the gear ratio. And I mean, we got it to go 7 flat, which was pretty good for an old motor like that was sitting around. But yeah, that's kind of what got the bug. We realized the small block stuff was just not going to do it, and you didn't the Pro Charger stuff. That was long before you seen any of that stuff. It was either a
right.
blower or you just had to build cubic inch or nitrous. So um, we did do some nitrous for a while, but I wasn't really into that stuff. So we kind of just kept building bigger and bigger motors. We just started at 500, then 632, and all the way up to 1,000 cubic inch motor.
Holy moly. I know you had the what 672 Sunnies in '09 that went 650s. I mean, did you race top dragster at all? Is that what you were
Yeah.
racing at
Yeah, I raced top dragster. We did some of the divisional stuff, and I enjoyed it. I don't really enjoy the Sunday racing anymore just because of the travel stuff. But
right,
we did pretty good in the top dragster, uh, but kind of just got the toilets of the NHRA stuff, how everything kind of was treated and went down. So I just kind of bailed out of it and just stopped racing it. But I ran top dragster for probably 7 or 8 years.
wow. How do you compare? I mean, I'm from that era when I was announcing, and I went through back when IHRA had top dragster. Of course, that those things tend to migrate to the NHRA once the idea is established. But many classes happen that way. But it used to be the small block guys with the blowers, used to be the big inch guys, and some of the nitrous guys, and it was really fascinating there. But we still track them. But I mean, it's not that it seems like with the exception of Division Three, which it's a nightmare to get into those fields. But it just seems like it's not like what we thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be like a new dragster version of Pro Mod for a while, and then it sort of now it's not that. mean, it's what are your thoughts on modern pro drag top dragster? While I have you talking about it.
But I mean, it kind of just died off, you know. I mean, that's where we were going. We ran Division 1 up here, but then we go run Division 3 with, you know, Norwalk in there because obviously with the a car went 630s, 620,
Right,
630 in a dragster. We had Norwalk was the place to go because everything was fast. So
right,
that's why we started doing some Division 3, but it just died off. You started getting the old top alcohol dragsters that couldn't compete that started
right,
coming over and the problem was you were getting out the guys that would show up at every race and you know them guys would go out and blow up and then they'd park their cars for you know a handful of races. So the dragster stuff kind of just died. You don't have a lot of places to go with them. The door car was
right.
something you could take all the time. The problem with the dragster was when I built it, they got rid of all the like the heads up stuff for it. Like they used to have some 420 index and things like
Right.
that. We just slow it down a little bit, but they kind of all that stuff fell apart back in like 2012, 13. So that was kind of what we built the dragster for, all heads up. And once that disappeared, you could just see it slowly dying, even though that you see a ton of dragsters still.
Right.
I mean, a lot of guys build them, but the door car you can race everywhere. So
Right.
it's tough to do the dragster now. I just don't, you know, PDRA does a good job with top dragster.
Right.
They get a good field and they're fast. Um, and if you don't qualify, they just push you over to their bracket stuff or a slower dragster field.
Well, that's pretty
So
cool. It's like the old IHRA days with top sportsman when you'd have your quick eight that became pro mod eventually, and then everybody else just went and raced.
yep, yep,
Stuff.
yeah. And IHRA I think did a way better job with top dragster than what NHRA has ever done. But
Yeah.
you got to go with where you know somebody provides the races, and that's kind of
Yeah.
them right now. So
Well, it's entry fees at the divisionals, man. It's and race
yeah,
cars on the track. That's what it's all about, I guess.
yeah, they bring them. You know, when I ran Top Dragster, you're a filler. As long as you know you're a filler and that's all you're ever going to be when you go there, then if you're okay with just hanging out there for, you know, 4 days
Yeah,
to, you know, to fill in, that's the problem. I think it irritates a lot of guys that kind of just folded out of that stuff.
sure. It's awful hard running as quick as Big Daddy Don Garlitz once did for all the stardom and
Yeah.
era. But well, tell us when you got started. So you transitioned to Extreme Pro Stock and came in and made a splash right away. Tell us a little bit about some of those highlights.
Yeah. So in the end of 2016, we were looking at just, you know, kind of leasing a car and just going out and, you know, seeing if we liked it and if we enjoyed it before we made some, you know, big purchase to it. But kind of when we went to view everything, that wasn't the plan. It determined that the car it had to be purchased. So we ended up Bielko. It was actually his brother that owned the car, and Kerry
Mhm.
Goforth raced the car and stuff. And so we purchased the car and two engines and all the equipment, and um, we got everything going. And mainly our goal was just to go to the race and make some laps, and you know, hopefully, you know, we can qualify, and then you know, that was pretty much the goal. And we ended up showing up at Galat the first race, and you know, the eighth run was the final round against Kerry Goforth. So it kind of went together pretty quick. And you know, it's tough once things happen like that. You're kind of like locked in. You know, you're hooked. There's no way to get out now. So
Right, right.
that tend to be what happened. But no, we did a good job. You know, and Rob did a good job tuning. That was who tuned the car at the time, was Rob and Bielko, and then a couple other guys came along, and it worked out. We just stayed hard at it. And of course, I didn't have any fear behind the seat. Was probably a little bit the dangerous part of it. You know, you weren't lifting if it moved around. You just put it another gear and kept moving. So
Got
it
it.
worked out. We got through the first three rounds and then Kerry in the final, and we beat him by I think 1/10 at the stripe. So we
Wow.
left dead even, and we got down to the other end, and it was a photo finish. It was probably only a few inches the Camaro had. Maybe the front end was a little loose or something. I don't know, and slid out
Yeah.
there, but it was enough to pull one off right there and get it done.
That's fantastic. So, winning first time out, rookie of the year then, right?
Yep, rookie of the year. We went to Cordova and mopped up there in quarter mile. Never drove the car in the quarter mile. First pass in the quarter, I think we went out there and it wheel stood, so we brought it back and then went back out, went 627 on the second hit.
Wow.
And Cordova is a little bumpy down there. I don't think I've ever seen so much dust roll up over the car and slam the ground on the shutdown area, but it was pretty cool when they packed that place in. That was a
Yeah.
great event that they put on at Cordova in 17.
Yeah, that's always an awesome. I haven't been able to go to every one of them, but I've been to a couple and they're pretty amazing.
Yep,
And
yep, they did an amazing job.
then you brought Chuck Samuel on in case you didn't have enough firepower. So that was an awesome acquisition.
Yeah, so Dean and them pretty much were done at the end of 17. They rounded up their championship again and mopped up everybody. And Dean told me that he had a motor for sale, and he told me if I was interested in buying it. Obviously, I knew his equipment was probably had a little more smoke than what I already had because Dean and Sonny were like brothers. They were two peas in a pod. So we purchased the motor, but the agreement was if I bought the motor, I had to bring Chuck Samuels along. So I wasn't sure if he'd come help me out or not because when I first met him, he was quiet and wouldn't say nothing to you. He just kind of move his head, "Hey, how you doing?" And
Yeah.
so we brought him on board. I talked to Rob and made sure it was okay that we brought on somebody else, to get more input to see if we could just up our game. And we went out and tested at Galat, and the fastest we went, I think, was 07 or 08 in the eighth with the car. And he told us to go out and run it our way, and we did. And we came back, and he swung some bars around and tinkered some stuff and moved some, uh, fuel things around. Went out, went 403. So
Wow.
pretty much right there, we're like, "Nah, you're good. You're hired."
Yeah.
So we had a tough year in 18. We were constantly doing stuff to the car. We moved over to the Liberty stuff and put the Liberty in the car, and we struggled a little bit, but there at the end of the year, we started putting everything together, and we won the final race at VMP and got to the final a couple races. So takes a lot of driver. The driver's definitely got to stay focused with shifting and stuff. And if you're off, the car just goes in a tire shake or you knock the clutch out. So
Right.
it took a little bit for us to get on the same page to consistently go out there and just kind of whip it. And 19, we kind of did that. We put everything together, and Chuck's a great guy. He was a driver himself. Obviously, he's got his
Right.
own reputation and has done well in drag racing. So having him there was a good chip. Rob is awesome and great. But Chuck drove a pro stock and pro mod. So his
Mhm.
input to help me as a driver to maybe get rid of some of my bad, habits in the car, kind of dissolved them up. And then we just went on a tear in 19. We won, I think three races in 19. So we won the Charlotte 4 wide and pretty much dominated there. We just ran good. I was good on the tree, and we just whole shot at everybody in eliminations to win that race. So
Nice. Galat, VMP, national record, a couple of poles.
yeah, we ran down. Monty had a pretty big lead, but at the last race, I think we lost by 60 points. I kind of didn't do a good job at the Darlington race, and he didn't even go 10 feet, and I flickered the red light when I left and went 402 or 3 beside him, and that was another championship that was pretty much would have been icing on the cake. But we went to the last race, qualified number one. On the pole, we set the national record and won and dominated the race. I think the slowest pass we made was an 01 or 2. The car went 4 flat, and then it went 401, 401, 401. It just printed the ticket. The car was just on rails, and we ran them back down, but I think we were short by like 60 points, a half a round to get it done.
Right.
So, but
And it's
we were happy with that.
kind of like the same thing in 22 and 23, right? Just it's
23
right
was just,
there.
yeah, 23, we were leading the points the whole time, and I kind of we'll just say I didn't do the job I was supposed to do at the last race. So we kind of just threw that one away. I was pretty confident going in there that we would be fine. And we obviously lost by a round there. We led all the way in, but that focus fade, and that was the end of it. So, and in 24, I tried to get a lead to make sure it didn't happen, and we almost did it again. In round two, we already had it locked up as long as I won round one, but round two we had a different motor in the car and couldn't see over the scoop, couldn't see the tree, couldn't see nothing, and the car made a killer run, but I was dead late on the tree. I couldn't see nothing. I seen him leave, and I'm like, I guess it's time to go. So I left the starting line. I think we went 403 to his 405 or 6. So
Oh my goodness.
we definitely had to smoke to win the Virginia race with hands down, even though they went 399. The biggest thing is that the more runs we get on the car, the faster we become the fastest car in eliminations.
Yeah.
It tends to be, if you look up the results, we tend to always become the fastest car. And Chuck and Rob just do a really good job. The more runs we log, the quicker the car goes. And a lot of the problem is we had 6 motors at one time, and we keep putting different motors in. We're just trying different things, and you get behind. So it takes us a while to work through those motors at that race to get caught up. We don't go testing anywhere. So the race is pretty much our test session.
Got it. Well, you got to, otherwise you get left behind because other people are tweaking on stuff and learning things.
Yeah. Everybody's constantly working. So we do need to test more. I think if we tested more, we'd be a lot sharper coming out. But this year here, we're just going to try to stick to 2 engines. And I think that'll be our best way to try to stay the most competitive the entire year, is just not try to put too much, in the circle.
Sounds good. Let's take a jump over to John and the folks on the chat and see if they've got something to contribute. John, what's going on out there?
Yeah, we've had a few comments. Going back a ways here, Rich Panicaro said he prefers quarter mile racing. That's cool, Rich. And you were talking about your engine, and because Crafty Kate had asked about it, and her answer to that was wow. Randy John, you also, you were talking about when you had a dragster going on, Chris, and Randy Johnston said dragsters are the only car that is the original drag racing car with no connection with a street car. Even fuel altereds use a Topolino or a roadster body. I thought that was a good point.
You got to remember the first dragster though was a rail, right? Because they took all the body parts off and just had a rail.
Yeah,
so.
A rail job. And Randy Johnston said, this is why I love dragsters, especially front engine dragsters, which is cool. And I asked Kay about, she commented El Camino with a question mark, but I wasn't sure what that was in reference to. So we'll find out. And Randy Johnson said, what is the cubic inch limit on Mountain Motor Pro Stock? I believe Pat Moosey is building a 1,000 cubic inch engine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Chris can talk about that, right?
Yep. So 5-inch bore space, 833 inches max. The 1,005 we did back in 13. Sonny built those. They're a 5.4 bore space, so a big monstrous motor. The problem is the torque's so violent in them; they're just hard to manage. And we went 620s in a 2,300 pound S&W dragster, but that was about it. There was nothing left. But the 833 is our max for our class. And most guys now have them punched all the way out to that 833. And you can run a wedge motor. I believe it's 840 something in the rule book. You can run a wedge. Dwayne Rice, he's the only guy in the class. He does run a wedge. He does not run a Hemi.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody else is Hemi.
Wow.
What's the application for those 1,000-foot motors? I know that 1,000-inch motors. I know that Musi ran one a couple of years ago. I know what the category was, and I think he took it down to Aruba or something. Or
yeah, Sonny built one, and a guy bought. They put it in a streetcar. I think it's more of just guys to say they got 1,000 cubic inches. Pure and simple. And they're heavy motors. The motor in my car, they weigh about 680 to 700 pounds. That 5.4 bore space motor weighed about 760.
Wow.
So that's heavy. That's a lot of front weight on the cars and to get balance and stuff back in the car. But I mean, I guess it's more of a conversation piece just to
Mhm.
say you got 1,000 cubic inches.
Okay.
So really no class, but you could run them in top sportsman or top dragster. There's no engine limit there. It's just your clock limit. Quarter mile. I think it's 605 or 610. I think is what it is. I know they moved it. It used to be 6 flat, but I think it might be 610 now or something. So as long as you don't go faster than that, you can do whatever you want.
Cool. Awesome. John, anything else from the guys?
Well, I thought I'd just mention, major graphic. I am really impressed with the colors on that car. It's a beautiful paint job. And the one that you had before that was equally as good. I don't know where you get that done, but man, it's a beautiful wrap.
Yeah, so Ryan Korek, that Korek Design in New Berlin, PAs, who paints the cars for me. So they're all paint, no wraps. Everything I've owned has always been painted. So I would prefer paint on the car. Some guys do the wrap mainly for weight. I personally don't care. I go for more of appearance that other people can enjoy it with you. So that's kind of why the car has functioning headlights and tail lights and marker lights, and it it it's what the class should be. It's called Pro Stock for a reason. So the car should resemble the street Camaro or Mustang or Dodge, whatever brand you're racing.
Mhm.
Very cool.
I didn't know
John,
that.
thanks.
Everybody else I've seen use wraps, but that's beautiful paint job.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Anything else from the team before we move on?
We're caught up for the moment.
Appreciate you, brother. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about the team. I know that your son is really coming along, right? Christopher, helping get everything going. Tell us what everybody does. Between Chuck and Rob, we talked about them a little bit, and Christopher, your wife and daughters.
Yep.
How,
So the son pretty much does everything. So when the car comes back, he unloads it. If the motor needs swapped, he swaps it, services the clutch, puts it all back together. He's the guy that loads it, cleans it, sets up the awning at the track. He does most of it. If he didn't do it, well, I'd be done. Obviously, I'm getting older and I just can't do what I used to do. So he does almost all the work. Um, Rob's more of the data guy. So he's the guy that says this don't work or that don't work. And we tell him, okay, well, then fix it, figure it out why it don't work. None of us like computers. So he's really good with that. He's sharp. He stays on it. He finds things that we miss. Chuck is an old school style racer. He's a pull a spark plug, click it at the stripe, and stand behind it and watch the suspension and how things work. He believes his eyes over whatever's in that car reading. With the data loggers, and so the car has made some of the quickest runs it's ever made by the data loggers not working when the computer quit in the car. So um, it really works out, with Chuck and Rob. They're both just diehard racers at heart. Rob used to drag race years ago, and he still has his car. And Chuck has maybe that comment with the El Camino. Chuck used to race in El Camino, so that may be what they were talking about back in the day. But he's very sharp and he knows the car front to back. I mean, suspension and everything, weight balance, shocks. He's all around, just can do everything that needs to be done to the car. And then with Rob, it makes it easy. I kind of just let them do what they want. I'm like, I just drive it. It's like kind of like you guys' car, I just get in and do what I got to do. But all three of them, it's a huge part. The wife will come along. She's like the biggest cheerleader ever. You'd think you could hear her in the helmet sometimes, but and the daughters are both girls that aren't afraid to get greasy. So they grew up racing with us and, pulling motors at the track and trannies and things like that with all the dragsters. So none of them are afraid to get dirty. If something needs done, I don't have to ask them. These generations now, you got to tell them what you want. These kids know that needs done. Just do it. Don't have me tell you what needs done. If you see them there under the car, it probably means you need to get under there and help get it apart so we can get it switched around.
Awesome.
But
I know that we talked about Sonny's a little bit. Tell us about who else takes care of you out there. But, any shout outs to some of the folks that help you build power or provide a little money to help go.
I mean, ATI is a big part. JC and his mom. We're kind of like a family there with them. We do a lot of work. I have an HVAC company, so we do work with them with their facilities and their personal homes and stuff. So we've become great friends. It's not even a sponsorship deal. It's more of we're two buddies that have the same goal, and we get along great. And Sonny's they're like a family. With Sonny passing and all that. I mean. Some people don't realize it, but to me, he's probably one of the biggest legacies in drag racing, especially the IHRA mountain motor thing. If it wasn't for him and what he's done for the class itself, this class would have been gone a long time ago. I mean, and they still put a lot into the class. The daughter, Junior Ward, and the son-in-law, and then Francis. They still do a lot, and there's only two of us mainly running Sunny Power. A lot of them have the motors in the car, Sunnies, but they take them elsewhere. But they do a lot for us. I mean, it's a huge what they do. Nonstop. We bring a motor in on a Sunday, they'll have it back together Monday evening and ready to go back in the car if we break something. So
Wow.
they're really good.
Sonny's fantastic. I've had the honor to know him for a long time before he passed. Because I was on the IHRA side with Bud's Creek, so I got to see the guys a couple times a year. But tell us about 2021 Galat, when you kind of did a little tribute to Sonny. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was kind of an emotional deal. When he passed, I talked to him right before all that. So when we got the Galat, it was one thing in mind, and it was just pounded into the ground, like no surrender. And we ended up getting to the final round, and Boone was having some engine issues in his car. So, I went over and told him, I think they had a valve issue. And I said, look, I'll give you all the time you need. Like, we were already ready to go. And PDRA kind of helped us out. They left the other cars that were going to run behind us go in front, to give him every opportunity he could to try to fix it. I don't want to win by default. I'm a racer to the core. So if you're that champ, and being he's a past champ, I figure we're just going to take care of it on the track. But he couldn't get it fixed. So I told him, well, we're not going to make a full run. We're just going to go up. And we talked to PDRA and said, look, we want to make this a tribute to Sonny Leonard and everything, he's done for the class. So we did a short little clean off the tires, just scuffed them off a little bit. It just rained. So obviously there was no full pool, and nothing stupid was going to happen. So we Junior got to be the starter. He works at Sonny's, and that's the son-in-law and stuff. So he was the starter to drop the tree. And as we idled down the track, they went over all of his accomplishments and everything he's done for drag racing, which is unbelievable how much one guy has literally done for the class and drag racing in a whole. It wasn't just all mountain motor, it's truck pools and everything he's involved in. And it was special. It meant a lot, and it meant a lot to them. And to be able to do that for him, was definitely a special moment that we'll always remember. That's probably the biggest memory in drag racing, with even the championships. But finishing off at the end of the year was just kind of to show that Sonny's ain't going nowhere, that, we're here to fight, and, we're not going to just fade off.
I love it. Well, that's a great story. You almost got some chills there, man. It's terrific to do that. And it's all about the people at the end, right? It's all about, what you do for folks, what folks do for you.
Yep, the people around you, and the people that come out and sit there for 12, 14 hours a day in the sun and watch and cheer people on, that's the biggest thing. If it's like you said, it's just all the family and friends and the fans. If there's no fans, there's no point bringing these race cars out. It's kind of pointless. And, and that's been a tough thing with the drag racing, just not having a lot of people in the seats. It's just been a tough deal the last few years. It, kind of makes you want to just put it away. Things are just changing.
Right. Well, we keep on trying to figure out what that combination is to get the youngsters out there again. But man,
Yeah, you see the youngsters, but you typically see the grandpa, 65, 70-year-old man dragging his grandson around, that's
Right.
6, 7, 8, 10 years old. The generation from that 20 to my age bracket, 45, 50, they're just not there. I don't know what changed, but obviously video games. I don't know.
Video games, internet.
Yeah.
Well, I can't say that too long. That's helps us keep connected. Well,
Yep.
well, Chris, let me go to John one more time, see if there's any final thoughts from our friends out there before we say farewell. John, what do you got? Anything?
Yes, we were talking about the weight of the 1,000 cubic inch engine, and Randy Johnston said 760 is about what the original 392s weighed. And Rob Bialco said Diane Powers, parachute packer, cook. And Crafty Kate pointed out, she said, I love that your car is painted. I love nostalgia. It reminds me of being a kid. And let's see, I got a couple of new comments while I was talking. Randy said, spectators are all important and where the profit for the track is.
Mm-hmm.
And Rich Panicaro and Rodney Potter said, this is a great show. And they're right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, John, and thanks everybody. Appreciate it. And so, Chris, tell us where can the fans find you online? Can they follow along as you go up and down the nation's tracks?
They can. We do a little bit of posting before. I used to do a lot, but kind of don't do as much. Obviously, you don't want people knowing when you disappear from your house and nobody's around. But I don't do as much when we're racing at the tracks, like posting things. It tends to be when I don't say anything and I'm just totally quiet. We tend to go there and kick butt and win races. So when I start putting things online, I tend to instant karma and I pay the price within seconds. So best way to do it. I mean, we do have some online stuff and you can always question either me or Rob or my son will comment and tell you what's going on. But come to the racetrack, come out there and hang out. Our pit's always open to everybody. There's nothing top secret with this car. It's a race car and it's for people to see and view and your kids to sit in it and hang out. That's what it's all about with us. So if you want to come out and get to an up close view of what's going on, you're more than welcome to come out to any race we show up at and come over and talk to us. Nobody's going to chase you out of the pit or yell at you like you're going to see something that's important. It's so we'd appreciate, the fans and whoever comes out.
Awesome. Well, Chris Powers, what a way to do it, man. 2021 and 2024 PDRA Extreme Pro Stock champion. Thank you so much for visiting with us tonight. Have a fantastic 2025. We'll see you somewhere down the road.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys, and thanks everybody for watching.
Take care. Chris Powers, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Say farewell here, and then we are going to go on to Mr. Bockelman for this week's JB's Take and his Racer of the Week. John, take it away.
Thanks, BP. First off, I need to point out that Bob Schulenberg is not a racer of the week. This is a tribute to my friend, the artist who died last month. In my life's journey, I've been fortunate to have gained lifelong friendships. I love them as brothers. BP, Bob Meisenbach, my sons Kyle, Nick, and my wife Debbie, and Kim Van Zandt are still with me, and I completely trust and abide in their support and advice. I lost many: Andy, Dave, Buzz, Colin, Scott, and Bob Schulenberg, who recently passed away. I met Bob in Kansas City in the summer of 1973. At that time, I was spending time away from the train wreck that my life had become back in Houston. I was there for 6 months. I rented a room in Bob's house, and we instantly became close friends. When I moved back to Houston, we stayed in touch, and he moved here for 5 years in the late 70s. We maintained our close bond. Simply put, Bob Schulenberg was not of this world. I've never known anybody like him. He was majoring in photography at the Kansas City Art Institute, but as great as his artwork was, he was one of the most astounding guitar players I've ever seen and heard. He was doing his own thing, a completely different style of playing unto itself. He played electric. He had the flying fingers of death. I was totally blown away by witnessing this guy who was above and beyond everything else I had ever heard. He also had his own perspective on life. He was different. Different is not an adequate word to describe Bob Schulenberg. He was on another wavelength altogether. He stood alone. Over the years, we shared living space and projects. He and I rebuilt my 1962 Gibson Melody Maker guitar. I played it exclusively for 5 years after we finished with it. To this day, it has its own tone, action, and look. It's a perfect example of what Bob could do. He never joined a band. He never had a job. He never had to pay Social Security. He lived on his own wavelength all over the world, exploring enlightenment. And he was definitely an enlightened guy. He put me up to G.I. Gurdjieff, Ram Dass, and various philosophical and spiritual paths that he was on. I learned a huge amount of knowledge from him sharing his discoveries with me. He was friends with Timothy Leary, Phi Wei Bill, and Lama Ole Nadal. He was a devout Buddhist, a member of Diamond Way. I met those folks and hung out with them. When I met Lama Ole, he embraced me. He put his forehead to mine and he said, "I knew you were coming. I love you." I said, "I love you too, man." Bob came and stayed with us every year or so when he would attend Diamond Way seminars here. He lived in Burbank for close to 30 years and he was there when he passed. He would call me at all hours to tell me of his new discoveries that were significant. I never had a problem with answering the phone at 3:30 in the morning. He was just getting warmed up. Bob became legally blind in his final years. The last time I saw him, he was struggling to find his way around, but his spirit and his mind were as sharp and as deep as ever. He carried a travel guitar and amp in his suitcase, and he'd play to relax. I would sit spellbound in his presence while he played. I know that Bob had a home studio, and he recorded hours of his music, but unfortunately, I was never able to obtain a tape or CD of his music. Just from what I heard him play, he was in a class by himself. I understand his reluctance to play in a band, but a band would have followed his lead if he had a group to perform his compositions. However, it was all lost to karma. I have never known anyone like Bob Schulenberg, and I doubt that I ever will. Having him in my life was a blessing I can't find words to describe. I will never forget Bob and his way of life. I had a different life than he did, but I absorbed his influence. He was part of me, and he still is. Play on in heaven, Bob. I'll see you again some fine day. Everybody stay safe and well. You are the most important part of this show, and we love you all. It's a great way to spend an hour together on a Monday night, and we'll see you all next time. God bless America. Back to you, VP.
Thank you, JB. Great stuff. And man, what an interesting person your friend was. That sounds fantastic. And so no racer of the week this week. It was all JB's take. And we take anything we can get from John because it's always great. So thank you, sir. Let's go on to upcoming guests. We have a bunch of folks to mention tonight, thanks to Ms. K. So she was on the line tonight chatting with you, but we next Monday night, we're going to be visited by Catherine Paraska-Savoy, also known as Crafty Kate. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Kate. She does a bunch of great special events, all themed around hot rods, and it's going to be just a lot of fun catching up. This is next Monday night, the 24th. Crafty Kate joins us here at Draglist Live. In March, On the 3rd of March, we have the living legend Butch Leal, the California Flash, will be joining us. And I cannot wait to talk to Mr. Leal, a guy who golfs about as well as he drag races. And he's a fantastic drag racer with backgrounds in funny cars and pro stock. And you name it, he's done it. Butch Leal, the California Flash, joined us on March the 3rd. On the 10th, Matt Cummings is going to join us, the new driver for that fantastic A-Fuel dragster out of the middle of the country. The guys who seem to win all the championships. Looking forward to having Matt join us. Matt Cummings coming up on the 10th. On the 17th, announcing this for the first time, Mike Lewis, former Top Fuel dragster driver back in the day, but also team manager for about a decade and a half, if not more, for some of the top fuel teams in the sport. Mike Lewis is going to be joining us on the 17th. Very excited about that. On the 24th of March, it's Christy Sudem, one of the really great front engine dragster drivers from the West Coast. She drives them, she tunes them, and like Chris was saying, she's not afraid to get her hands dirty. She jumps in there and mixes it up with the boys, whether it's in the pits or on the starting line. So Christy Sudem coming up on the 24th. And announcing this for the first time tonight, on the 31st of March, Wally Fuller, the bushwhacker, fuel funny car, just a veteran who's been out there, kind of a low buck guy, slamming it up against the big guys, doing all the great match races on the West Coast. Wally Fuller, who is still out there doing it. I'm looking forward to visiting with Wally. Going into April, you don't have to remember all these because we'll remind you every single week, folks. But Dan Pettinato, the Rat Poison AA Fuel Altered team will be joining us on April 7th. On the 14th, we have that open date, but we'll be looking to fill that. And on the 21st, April 21st, the superstar from Europe, Ida Zetterstrom, is going to be joining us here on Draglist Live. So the young lady who won the Top Fuel Championship in Europe, and she's come over here to try her luck and doing a great job racing in the States. And has got a big 2025 ahead of her. We're going to find out all about it. Ms. Zetterstrom joining us on the 21st. And on April 28th, we still need to fill that slot too. I don't think Kay's going to give me a week off now, guys. We're going to be stuck. And matter of fact, the 3rd, I'll have to take a look at that. One of these days in one of these weekends in March, I'll be actually traveling, but I'll figure out where that is, and we'll make sure that we have all the goods to get it done, no matter where we are. Anyway, thanks to Miss Kay Turkelson, doing a great job lining up guests, and really, really appreciate her, and looking forward to seeing all these great guests coming up. Let's go on to those we lost, folks. We have some folks to report. Some of our fellow racers and friends have passed on this last week. Always proud to remember these folks. And of course, our condolences to the families and many friends. On the 10th, Mopar Superstock racer Dennis Maurer passing away. A lot of folks sharing their love up online. Farewell to Mr. Maurer. On the 13th, the living legend Carl Holbrook, has been out there forever and ever. Gone 25 years. Ford legend. And matter of fact, I think a memory of Mr. Holbrook, obviously from Michigan, with a top team. On the 13th, also, Pro Mod pioneer Michael Martin. Those who were with us at the beginning of the Pro Mod era, if you remember those beautiful yellow all-pro auto parts cars, Pro Mod pioneer Michael Martin passing away on the 13th. Farewell to him. Also on the 13th, from down under, John Bell from Victoria passing away. John raced an A dragster for a long time and also a jet car, but he was also the former president and longtime member of the Thunderbirds Rod and Custom Club in Victoria. So farewell to John Bell. On the 14th, we lost Stan Hawes, who raced an El Camino stock eliminator car out of Oregon. Stan won the 2000 NHRA World Finals Stock Eliminator, Wally. So farewell to Stan Hawes. And then finally, Ricky Ruiz, our Nevada Rattler friend, passing along on the 15th. He lost his friend Mike Mantor, who was involved in the sport and a big supporter. So farewell again to all these great racers. Thanks for the thrills over the years. And it was we're better for having known you. And with that, John, let me turn it over to you for any final thoughts that you may want to share.
Well, it was great having Chris Powers on the show, man. The guy is just a fountain of information, and he had more information about Sonny's engines than I ever heard before. And I was really glad that he talked about that tonight. And I'm going to come back and listen to the show again. When I'm doing the chat, I don't have time. I don't have time to concentrate on what y'all are talking about all the time.
Sure.
But then I come back later and I go, man, that was incredible. So, yeah, man, we got a lot of compliments on the show tonight, and I can't say enough good things about Chris Powers. And the next national event I go to, I know he'll be there, and I'll be sure to stop in and say hi to him.
Yeah, that would be. We're getting quite a group of friends. We may not have enough time to visit all the pit spaces, but it's always fun to try.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All good.
Well, thank you, John, and thanks to everybody on the chat. Appreciate it. Let's go ahead and do our wrap. I do want to thank Chris Powers, who was terrific. Rob Bialco, thank you, sir, for helping set it up. And you got a lot of love tonight and helping read those data recorders. Appreciate it, sir. John Bachman, my brother, doing such a great job with the posters and the promotions and the keeping up with the chat. Kay Turkelson, thank you, dear, for getting everybody lined up for us. And she's also putting up some interesting new promo little video things. You guys will see those here and there. I want to thank our Draglist Super Crew in the back end here at the Super Crew World Headquarters, floor 62, as where they do all the updates. Rob McCabe, Mel Bashore, and Ron Toombs keeping us updated. Check every single day, guys. You can find us on the Twitter or on the Facebook. We talk about some of the updates, but every single day the Draglist gets updated. And of course, thanks forever to the big man Danny White, who worked for so many years to get those Draglists updated. I do want to thank Jeff Gilder of Zeus Digital Marketing, Racers Reunion, and Wingding Media for getting us started back in old 2010. And once again, click the like and click the share button. That's the little thumbs up down here. And I think our brand new, where am I pointing? Am I pointing to the right place? I think I am, not sure. So our Draglist logo in the bottom right is where you can click and subscribe to our channel. So click that, dude. Let me know if that works, because they said it works, and we'll find out. It should give you an opportunity to subscribe. And so with that, I think I've run my mouth for enough tonight, folks. Thanks again to Chris Powers and John and Kay and everybody and Rob. I'll see you next Monday night for Miss Crafty Kate. And let's hit the magic farewell button. All right. See you next Monday. Have a great week, everybody.